In a far part of the galaxy, the Zorathian Empire ruled many worlds. Their ships flew through the stars, and their armies were strong. The people of the Empire believed they were the most powerful race in the galaxy. But there were old stories, quiet ones, that spoke of another race. A race called humans. The stories said that humans once lived in the stars too. Some said they had great power. Others said they were wild and dangerous. But most believed they were just a myth. No one had seen a human in many years, not even the oldest Zorathian scholars. The Empire laughed at the idea. To them, humans were just bedtime stories. Commander Threx stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser. He looked out into space with sharp eyes. He was not a man who believed in old stories. He believed in force, in numbers, in power. He gave orders to take more systems. He wanted more control, more glory. Myths did not interest him. On the edge of the Empire, one of their scout ships picked up a strange signal. It was weak, old, and broken, but it was there. The signal carried a type of code that no one had seen before. The crew of the scout ship sent the message to Central Command. They waited for new orders. The signal repeated again and again, like it was trying to be found, far from the Empire, hidden deep inside a dark part of space called the Orion Void. There was a world called Haven 7. It was a quiet planet. It had forests, rivers, and small towns. People lived in peace, but these people were not just anyone. They were humans. On Haven 7, a young man named Ethan Cole worked in a small station. He was an engineer. He fixed machines, checked power systems, and worked with old tech. One day, while doing routine checks, he saw something strange. A signal had activated an old Earth satellite in orbit. It was the same signal that the Zorathians had found. Ethan rushed to tell Captain Laura Pierce. She was a former soldier, strong and respected. She had once fought during the fall of Earth. She had grey hair now, but her eyes were sharp. She listened to Ethan's report and became worried. That signal was never meant to be activated. Called a meeting of the Council of Elders. The room was quiet as people gathered. There were leaders like Noah Briggs, a wise man with a calm voice, and Helen Granger, a smart woman who knew the old ways. They listened as Laura explained what had happened. The signal could attract attention, bad attention. Some on the council wanted to shut everything down and hide again. Others said it was too late. If someone had seen the signal, they might already be coming. The debate grew tense. Laura stood up and said, "We cannot run forever." Her words made the room quiet. At the same time, back in Zorathian space, high command received the full signal. A group of experts studied it. They said it matched a pattern found in ancient records. One of the symbols was clearly marked as human. That word sent a chill through the room. Could the stories be true? Admiral Vec, the leader of the Zorathian fleet, was not afraid. He believed if humans still existed, they would be weak and broken. He ordered a full armada to investigate. Warships began to gather. Engines roared, lights flashed, and the great fleet moved toward the Orion Void. On Haven 7, Ethan sat alone, looking at the stars. He felt something heavy in his chest. He never thought much about the old Earth stories, but now they seemed real. He wondered what was coming. In the distance, lights blinked in the night sky. A storm was coming, one that would shake the galaxy. Captain. Laura knew they had little time. She began to prepare the people. Young men and women signed up to train. Old machines were cleaned and powered up. Ships hidden for years were pulled from their caves. Laura knew they would need more than weapons. They would need courage. Among the new recruits were Rachel Dean, a fast and brave pilot, and Leo Harris, a quiet thinker who studied enemy tactics. They were young, but they believed in the cause. They trained every day, learning the old human ways of fighting. The people of Haven 7 were no longer just survivors. They were becoming something more. The myth was waking. The stars would soon know that humans were not just stories. They were real, and they were ready. Asterisk, the stars above Haven 7 were calm, but below, the people were busy. Everyone was moving, building, training, and preparing. The signal had changed everything. The time of hiding was over. Captain Laura Pierce walked through the main base, watching as old war machines were brought back to life. Soldiers ran drills, engineers checked weapons and systems. Ethan Cole worked harder than ever. He helped repair drones, clean reactors, and test shields. He also spent time studying the signal that had been sent. It was older than he thought. Some of the code was from Earth's last defense network. That meant it had been left on purpose. Maybe someone wanted others to find it. Maybe it was part of a plan. Rachel Dean flew her small fighter through the skies above the base. She ran test flights and practiced new moves. She had always wanted to be a pilot, and now she was one. She was fast, smart, and bold. She liked the wind in her face and the feeling of speed. But deep down, she knew this was more than fun. A real fight was coming. Leo Harris sat in the war room. He watched maps, studied enemy movements, and read old battle reports. He was not strong like a soldier, but he was clever. He could see patterns, weak points, and smart ways to strike. He spent hours with the command team, helping Laura plan in the outer edges of space. The Zorathian Armada was moving. Their ships were large and full of weapons. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of the lead ship. He looked proud and sure of himself. He did not fear humans. He believed they would be weak, simple creatures living in the dirt. He expected to find a small colony and crush it. As the fleet moved closer to the Orion void, they sent out probes. Small machines flew ahead, searching for signals and life signs. Some of the probes went missing. Others returned with strange data. Something was there, something powerful. But the Zerothians did not stop. They wanted answers. Back on Haven 7, the council met again. The elders were worried. The fleet was almost near. They had to make a choice. Some still wanted to hide, but Laura stood firm. She said they could not wait. They had to act. They had to show the galaxy that humans were still here. Laura gave the green light for a stealth mission. Rachel and Leo were chosen to lead it. Their goal was to sneak into Zorathian space and disable a recon station. If they could do it, they would slow down the enemy and learn more about their plans. The small team left at night. Their ship was fast and silent. Rachel flew while Leo watched the systems. They moved through the dark, avoiding patrols and mines. After many hours, they reached the station. It was floating near a gas giant, full of scanners and comms. Leo hacked into the system while Rachel held position. It took time, but he got inside. He shut down the main feed and planted false data. Then they flew away before anyone noticed. When the station woke up again, it showed nothing but false readings. The mission was a success. When they returned to Haven 7, the people cheered. It was a small win, but it gave them hope. They now knew they could fight. They now knew they had a chance. But it also brought new questions. What if the fleet was bigger than they thought? What if the Zorathians found them before the other colonies could help? Laura called for a meeting. She told Ethan to send a message. Not just one message, but many. A call to all human colonies still hidden in the stars. The message was short and clear. It said, "We are alive. We are ready. Come home." The message flew across the galaxy. It reached places no one had spoken to in years. On a cold moon named Terra Nova, a colony of humans watched the message in silence. On a desert world called Bastion, warriors listened and nodded. On the green planet of New Eden, families cried with joy. The myth was real. Humans still lived. Old ships were taken out of deep storage. Weapons were cleaned. Uniforms were put on again. Leaders from each colony began to talk. They remembered the old Earth days. They remembered what they had lost. Now they had a chance to stand together. Haven 7 became the center, the first place to rise. The other colonies sent scouts and small fleets. More humans arrived each day. The base grew larger. The people grew stronger. The legend was no longer just a story. It was real. Ethan stood at the edge of the landing field, watching as new ships came in. He felt proud. He had helped start this. Rachel walked up to him. Smiling, she told him they had work to do. There was no time to rest. Laura watched everything from the command tower. She saw the people, the ships, the growing hope. She knew the real fight was still ahead, but she also knew something else. Humans were no longer hiding. They were rising. The Zorathians had no idea what was waiting for them. The myths were true, and soon the stars would remember their name. The Zorathian Armada moved deeper into the Orion void. Their ships were large and silent, floating through space like hungry beasts. Admiral Vec stood on the bridge of his main ship. He looked at the screen showing the area near Haven 7. The signal had stopped, but he knew something was there. He ordered more probes to be sent. The probes did not return. First one went dark, then two more. Each time the signal from the probe cut out. No sign of explosion or attack, just silence. Admiral Vec grew angry. He ordered a team of fast ships to go forward and search. They too disappeared. He did not understand what was happening. The enemy was not showing itself, but something was striking them in the dark. On Haven 7, the human base was stronger now. More ships had arrived from other colonies. People were working together. They fixed weapons, built walls, and planned attacks. It was not just one colony anymore. It was a growing force. Captain Laura Pierce met with General Owen Brooks. He was the leader of the fleet from Terra Nova. He had grey eyes and a deep voice. He shook Laura's hand firmly. They sat with other commanders and looked at the battle map. They needed to stop the Zorathians before they reached Haven 7. Laura said the time had come for a bold move. They had to show the enemy that humans were ready to fight. Rachel, Dean, and Leo Harris were chosen again for a special mission. This time, they were not alone. A small team of fighters and tech experts went with them. The goal was to strike a Zorathian recon base hiding behind a broken moon. Their ship moved fast and low, using the moon's shadows to stay hidden. Rachel flew with sharp focus. Leo guided the team through silent signals. When they reached the target, they used old Earth tech to block the enemy sensors. They entered the base quietly. The halls were empty and cold. Machines hummed in the dark. Leo found the control room. He placed a virus in the system that would feed false data to the whole Zorathian network. As they left, alarms sounded. The base woke up. Guards ran through the halls. Rachel led the escape. She fired at doors and walls to slow the enemy. The team reached the ship and flew away just in time. One of their engines was hit, but they made it home. The virus worked. For the next 2 days, the Zorathian Armada saw fake signals. They turned in the wrong direction. They wasted time and fuel. Admiral Vec was furious. He ordered every ship to scan the area again. Laura used the time well. She called for more support. Messages were sent to colonies farther away. Some had not been heard from in years. Still, they answered. Small fleets began to move. One by one, the stars lit up with human ships. Ethan Cole helped upgrade the old satellites around Haven 7. He worked day and night. He added new shields, better sensors, and strong weapons. He was not a soldier, but his work was saving lives. Laura visited him and said she was proud. It was the first time he saw her smile. More humans came every day. Families, pilots, fighters, and builders. They brought old memories and new hope. The myth was no longer a whisper. It was becoming a roar. Then the Zorathians found them. One of the Empire's scout ships broke through the traps. It saw the human base and sent a message before being destroyed. Now the Zorathians knew the truth. Humans were real, and they were ready to fight. Admiral Vec ordered the Armada to prepare for battle. He would crush them. He wanted the galaxy to see that myths had no power. He believed his fleet could not lose. But he was wrong. Laura stood before her people. Her voice was calm and strong. She told them the time had come. No more hiding. No more running. They would defend their world, their name, and their future. General Brooks took command of the fleets. The plan was clear. They would hit the enemy hard, fast, and smart. Rachel and Leo were placed in charge of key squadrons. Ethan was put in charge of defense systems. Every person had a role. As the Zorathian Armada came closer, the human ships rose from Haven 7, hundreds of them. Old ships, yes, but rebuilt with care. They moved in perfect lines. They waited in silence. Then the first shot was fired. The sky lit up with blasts and fire. Human ships danced through the stars. Rachel flew with skill, dodging beams and firing back. Her squad took down 2 enemy cruisers. Leo directed fighters to weak spots, cutting the Zorathian lines apart. Ethan watched from the control room. When the enemy targeted the base, he activated the new shields. When missiles came close, his drones destroyed them. His hands shook, but he never stopped working. The battle lasted hours. Ships burned, lives were lost. But the humans stood strong. For every ship they lost, the enemy lost too. The Zorathians were not ready for this kind of fight. They had thought humans were gone, soft or broken. They had made a mistake. As the Zorathian flagship turned to flee, Rachel gave chase. She flew through the wreckage, dodging fire. She hit the engines, then the bridge. The flagship went dark and drifted. Cheers filled the human base. They had won the first big battle. Not the last, but the first, and it proved the truth. Humans were not myths. They were not gone. They were fighters. And now the galaxy knew. Haven 7 was quiet after the battle. The fires were out and the skies were calm. But the people were not resting. They worked day and night. They knew this was only the beginning. More Zerothian fleets would come. Captain Laura Pierce walked through the main command center. Reports came in from all over. Ships were damaged, supplies were low, and many people were tired. But they had one that gave them strength, that gave them hope. General Owen Brooks called a meeting with all the commanders. They gathered around a large table with maps and screens. More human fleets were arriving. Ships from Bastion, New Eden, and even the old colony of Iron Reach. For the first time since Earth's fall, humans stood together. Laura looked at the group and spoke. We are no longer hiding. We are no longer alone. The galaxy thought we were gone. Now they will know we are back. The leaders nodded. Plans were made. The human fleet would not wait for another attack. They would take the fight to the Zerothians. But they needed more time to prepare. Every ship had to be repaired. Every pilot had to train. Every weapon had to be ready. Rachel Dean led flight drills in the open sky. She trained new pilots, many of them young and full of fire. She showed them how to move fast, how to work as one. She had become more than just a pilot. She was now a leader. Leo Harris spent his days in the war room. He studied Zerothian moves. He looked for patterns, traps, and weak points. He was quiet, but his mind was sharp. His plans had saved many lives. Ethan Cole worked in the main reactor. He fixed power lines, tested shields, and helped build new defense towers. He did not wear a uniform, but people came to him for help. He had become someone others could count on. One evening, a large ship arrived from the far side of the galaxy. It was old, covered in scars, and very strong. It was the flagship from Bastion, called the Iron Will. Its commander, Captain Grace Monroe, stepped off the ramp. She was tall, firm, and full of fight. She hugged Laura and said, "We're here now. Let's finish this." The base cheered. More ships came after that. Scouts, cruisers, and even heavy warships. The sky above Haven 7 was full of life, but far away, the Zerothians were not silent. Admiral Vec had lost a battle that had never happened before. He sent messages across the Empire, calling for more ships, more soldiers, and more weapons. He blamed the loss on tricks and luck. He still believed humans were weak. The Empire began to prepare. On the dark world of Zorath Prime, factories worked without rest. New warships were built. Troops trained day and night. The Zerothians wanted revenge. Back on Haven 7, the human alliance grew stronger. Messages came in from alien races living under the Empire's rule. Some asked questions, some offered help, some only watched. But they had seen the battle. They had seen the humans fight and win. General Brooks sent ships to speak with them, not with threats, but with promises. He said the humans did not want to rule, only to be free. He said the fight was not just for Earth, but for every world under the Empire's shadow. More allies joined. Small groups at first, fighters, engineers, doctors. Each one helped. Each one made the cause stronger. The next step was clear. They had to strike at the heart of the enemy. Not just win a battle, but change the future. The goal was Zorath Prime. If they could take it, the war would turn, but it would not be easy. The planet was guarded by fleets, shields, and towers. It had not been attacked in over 100 years. Laura stood before the war table and said, "If we want peace, we must take the risk. We must show the Empire that we are not afraid." Rachel, Leo, Ethan, and many others agreed. They had come too far to stop now. The human fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships, each one ready. Laura gave the final order. The engines lit up, and the stars were filled with light. On the way to Zoroth Prime, the fleet passed through silent zones, broken worlds, and old wrecks. In one system, they found an old Earthship floating cold. Its name was still clear on the side. It had been lost during the Great Collapse. They brought it aboard and gave it honor. People told stories during the journey, stories of Earth, of battles, of hope. Soldiers cleaned weapons. Pilots checked systems. Engineers worked without sleep. They all knew the next fight would decide everything. As they neared Zoroth Prime, the human fleet formed lines. Fighters flew ahead. Bombers waited behind. Command ships stood ready. The Zorothians were waiting. Their fleet was large and full of power. Admiral Vex stood in his tower and gave the order. Crush them, then. The stars above Zoroth Prime lit up with fire as the final battle began. Human ships moved forward in tight lines. Zorothian warships came out to meet them. The space between the two fleets became a storm of lasers, missiles, and explosions. Captain Laura Pierce stood on the bridge of the lead command ship. Her eyes were calm. Her voice was steady as she gave orders. Hold the line, protect the flanks. Focus fire on the heavy ships. General Owen Brooks watched from another command center. He worked with other commanders to lead the attack. He gave orders to the second wave. Wait until they overreach, then strike hard. Rachel Dean flew her fighter through the chaos. She dodged fire, spun through debris, and hit enemy targets. Her squad followed close behind. They moved like one, fast and sharp. Rachel hit a cruiser's engine, causing it to spin out of control. Leo Harris sat deep in the command ship's war room. He watched the battle from above, using data and maps. He pointed to weak spots in the enemy line. Send our bombers here. Their shield system is overloading. Ethan Cole was not in the fight. He was below the surface of Zoroth Prime. Hours before the battle began, he had joined a special team. Their mission was to reach the enemy's main power grid and shut it down. They had landed in secret, using an old mining route. Ethan moved. With a small team of soldiers, they carried tools, weapons, and a plan. Inside the tunnels, they met heavy resistance. Zorothian guards fought to protect the power core. The battle underground was just as fierce as the one in space. Ethan used his knowledge of systems to get past security. He opened locked doors, shut off alarms, and led the team forward. They reached the main room. Inside was the central power hub that fed the city's defenses. The team set explosives and connected a hacking device. Ethan worked fast. Wires sparked. Lights flashed. Then he saw the warning. The system had a defense program. It was going to overload the room. Ethan told the others to run. He stayed behind. He finished the upload and hit the switch. The power grid shut down. Lights across Zoroth Prime went dark. The shields fell. But Ethan was caught in the blast. His name lit up on every screen back in the human fleet. Rachel saw the message, but kept flying. She clenched her teeth and whispered, "Thank you, Ethan." Then she pushed her ship faster. Her squad took down 2 more ships. Leo used the power loss to launch a final strike. All ships, forward. Hit them now. General Brooks gave the order. The full force of the human fleet hit the enemy. Zorothian ships fell one by one. Their lines broke. Their command ships tried to flee. Admiral Vex shouted from his tower, "No retreat. Hold your ground. Crush them." But it was too late, Captain. Laura gave her final order. All ships, push through. End this. The human fleet broke into the last line. Fighters flew through burning wrecks. Bombers dropped payloads on the city's towers. The Zorathian defense grid was down. There was nothing left to stop them. Admiral Vex's ship was the last to fall. A direct hit cracked the side of the tower. The ship spun and dropped toward the planet. It vanished in a ball of fire. Silence followed. Then cheers filled every human ship. Rachel landed her fighter. She was shaking, but alive. Leo sat down and closed his eyes for a moment. Laura looked at the screen and saw only stars. General Brooks called out to all ships, "We are free." Across the galaxy, news spread. The Empire had fallen. The myth had returned. Humans had not just survived. They had changed the future. Alien races under the Empire's rule stood up. Some fought, some ran, some joined the new alliance. People who had lived in fear now had hope. They saw the human flag and knew things could be different. The leaders of the human fleet met on Haven 7. They stood together in the Great Hall. Laura spoke first. "We are no longer lost. We are no longer hiding. The stars remember us now." General Brooks added, "We fought not for power, but for freedom. For all of us. For every world that was told to kneel." Rachel placed a photo of Ethan on the wall of heroes. His face would never be forgotten. Ships were sent to help broken worlds. Food, medicine, and tools were shared. Peace talks began. A new alliance was formed, not just of humans, but of all free people. The story of humanity became legend again. But this time, it was real. The stars knew their name. The myth had become truth. The survivors had become leaders. The forgotten had returned, and they were here to stay. Asterisk. Months had passed since the fall of Zoroth Prime. The human flag now flew over once lost places. The galaxy was changing fast. The Zorathian Empire was gone, but many pieces of it still remained. Some former leaders fled into deep space. Some still tried to hold power on nearby worlds. There was still danger. Captain Laura Pierce stood on the bridge of a ship called the Liberty Star. It was one of the new ships built after the battle. She watched as the fleet moved toward a new zone. Their goal was to help more people, stop the last loyalists of the Empire, and bring peace to the border systems. Rachel Dean flew ahead with a new squad. Her ship was faster now, built with new tech. She trained young pilots every day. She was no longer just a fighter. She was a teacher. The new recruits called her Commander Dean. Though she still liked just being Rachel, Leo Harris worked in the Central Command. Base on Haven 7, he had stayed behind to help build the new system of government. He worked with leaders from many colonies, and even from alien races that had joined the Alliance. He spoke with calm words and sharp plans. People trusted him. Ethan Cole's name was still spoken with respect. His old tools were placed in a glass case in the Hall of Heroes. Children learned about his sacrifice. He had saved them all by stopping the Zorathian grid. His story was now part of human history. The new alliance was not perfect. Each world had different needs. Some colonies wanted full control over their land. Some races still feared each other. But Laura and the others worked day and night to keep everyone together. One day, a strange message arrived. It came from a system no one had heard from in years. The signal was weak but clear. It asked for help. Pirates had taken over the system. The people there were trapped. Laura called a meeting. She invited General Brooks, Rachel, and other key leaders. She said, "We cannot let fear grow again. We must answer this call." Rachel nodded. "We have the strength. Let's use it to help." "General." Brooks agreed. He started to prepare a group of ships for a rescue mission. The fleet moved fast. The Liberty Star led the way. When they reached the system, they saw the damage. The planet below was burning in places. Small ships flew in the sky, attacking anyone who moved. Rachel led the first wave. Her fighters cleared the skies of pirate ships. They used fast moves and strong teamwork. The people below watched in awe. They had thought no one would come. Laura sent teams to the surface. Soldiers, doctors, and engineers landed. They helped the people find shelter, food, and safety. Leo sent messages to nearby systems, warning them of the danger and asking for support. The pirates tried to fight back. They attacked from hidden bases in the hills, but they were not ready for trained soldiers. After 2 days, their forces broke. Many gave up. Some fled into space. One leader, a tall man with cold eyes, was captured. He said, "You think you've won, but there are more like me, out there in the dark. You can't stop us all." Laura looked him in the eye and said, "Maybe not all at once, but we will keep going, one by one, until there's no dark left." After the battle, the people of the planet came out of hiding. They walked through the streets with tears and smiles. Children waved at the ships. For many, it was the first time they felt free. Rachel walked through the town with her squad. People cheered. Some gave them small gifts. An old man handed Rachel a flower and said, "You brought the light back." Back on Haven 7, Leo updated the Alliance map. More systems were marked as free. Each light on the map meant lives saved. He smiled quietly, knowing the work was worth it. Weeks later, a group of alien ships arrived at Haven 7. They were not part of the old empire. They came from beyond the known sectors. Their leader was a woman named Yari. She said, "We have watched you. We thought humans were stories, but now we see you are real, and you fight not just for your own kind, you fight for all." Laura welcomed them. "We are not perfect, but we believe in freedom. If you want peace, you are welcome here." Yari nodded. "Then we will join you." The alliance grew again. Later that night, Laura walked alone through the halls of the command center. She stopped. At the wall of heroes, she looked at Ethan's photo. She placed her hand on the glass and whispered, "We keep going, just like you wanted." Above her, the stars were clear. New systems waited. New battles might come. But the humans were not afraid. They had been forgotten. They had been broken. But they had risen again. The myth had become a force, and that force would keep moving forward, lighting the dark, one star at a time.